Lord Strahd the Ancient and the Land has several powerful lieutenants, only one of whom is a vampire. The only true vampire in Barovia, aside from Strahd himself. This vampire is Kazan the Necromancer. Hundreds of years ago, the Necromancer and would-be Lich Kazan came to Barovia to learn from Strahd and to gain immortality. He was successful in both, but was ultimately seduced by Strahd, agreeing to be his, believing the lie that he might someday supplant Strahd. Now he spends his time crafting spells to empower and protect Strahd when he isn't performing profane experiments in his tower. 3 days ago, Van Richten attempted an assault on the tower, only to be nearly killed when he touched the arcane door to the temple. He did make it back to Vallaki, where the party found him recuperating. They were obligated to kill a hag that was eating children, but persuaded Van Richten to give them 2 days to go out and return. They didn't make it back in time. Upon reaching Kazan's tower, they found a macabre sight. Van Richten lay motionless at the foot of the tower, a large dragon statue was facing the door, and Van Richten's horseless carriage was atop an immobilized but still animated skeleton. A dozen or so deanimated skeletons were strewn about the grounds. The tower itself stood tall before them, with inky black tendrils of smoke appearing to reach out towards them. Immediately, one of the players rushed to check on Van Richten. There was no question that he was dead. He had a terrible burning hole in his back and had long since gone cold. In his hand was a bony finger, later determined to be from the immobilized skeleton. Also on him was a magic ring, a spell scroll, an in-progress book about Barovia entitled A Modest Treatise of the Unfortunate Souls of Barovia by your humble servant, Dr. Rudolf Van Richten. Some weapons, notes about Kazan, and details on translating Espoir rune. The party determined that the door had a combination lock, cylinders that needed to be rotated to show the 6 correct Espoir runes, with a total of 9 runes on each disc. Correctly surmising the dragon statue killed Van Richten as he attempted to unlock the door, they moved the wagon to block the dragon statue. The artificer reached out to touch the lock, but used his wooden-handled dagger instead, remembering that Van Richten was nearly killed when he previously attempted to enter the tower. The moment he touched the lock, the dragon roared and released a lightning bolt that blew a hole through the wagon. Moreover, the dragon began to move, coming to life. Knowing the dragon was beyond their ability to fight, the rest of the party swooped in to distract it so the goblin wizard and artificer could unlock the door. Okay, so it's not really about Kazan or his tower. This is about puzzles. Well, it's about a puzzle that I made up for this tower. The code of the door is a simple letter substitution. I told them this explicitly. Of course, they don't know what each symbol means. They also don't know what word to spell out. This is off to a really bad start. While the puzzle was just a simple letter substitution, something players could reasonably figure out in-game, it represented the character decoding ancient runes to enter the passcode into the door. They did this using Van Richten's notes on Espoir runes, which I simulated using this decoder disc. Each position reveals a new letter-symbol combination. So the puzzle worked like this. Each round, 1 or 2 players would have the chance to identify a symbol and its corresponding letter. They can use their action to move the decoder in one direction, but then must choose a password to try in the door. However, to keep them rolling and gambling and making choices, they may instead use their action to attempt a skill check to get 2 letters. But if they fail, they get nothing that round. What actions? I don't know, whatever makes sense. Arcana to decode the runes, sleight of hand to feel the tumbler click, maybe investigation to see which runes are less or more worn. If the player sells it to you, it can work. I stole the same rule set basically from Matt Colville, described in his video on skill challenges here. You need to be proficient to use a skill, and you can't use the same skill twice. While this is happening, each round the dragon becomes more and more animated. First round, it gets its breath weapon. Then a claw attack, 2 claws attack, 2 claws attack, and a bite attack, movement speed, and then finally flight and burrow speed. It's fully animated. Fully animated and ready to do some damage, which is really bad because this is just the prelude to going into the vampire's lair to have the boss fight. Players not involved in the puzzle can start fighting the dragon to try and weaken it as much as possible before it's fully animated. It was a lot of fun. The Goblin Wizard's player wasn't paying attention or just forgot and touched the door, nearly dying in the process. It wasn't huge damage, he just was a wizard. And they figured out the password immediately, which was the point of the puzzle. There's 6 letters in the code, 6 letters in Kazan's name. They kept hearing his name and seeing his symbol, but they didn't know which rune corresponded to which letter. Here, though, is the devious, terrible GM part. Strahd also has 6 letters, and both Strahd and Kazan have an A and an H in them. Between the two names, 9 unique letters. So I put 9 unique symbol-letter combinations. I could have done more letters, but this was a proof of concept thing. Both Strahd and Kazan could be spelled with the letters. To my surprise and delight, I'm ashamed to admit, once the players saw the S, several became convinced that Kazan was a red herring and Strahd was the code. And they went for that first. I really like puzzles like this where you can just pivot between being pure D&D or letting the players solve it without mechanics or some combination of the two. What else? All right, thanks for watching.